Well, listen, this building is absolutely fantastic. And I think from the outside, it's very cool. I mean, it's obviously Grand Cathedral, it's an old church cathedral. But when you get on the inside, it's incredible. There's stained glass and woodwork and these incredible light fixtures. So, what condition was the building in when you guys came in here?
It wasn't terrible. So this building was built in 1906, and I think in like the 80s or 90s there was a fire that took place, and it collapsed the entire building, including the roof. The only things that stood were the four walls, which they were able to preserve. But after that, they rebuilt everything. So luckily for us, everything is not terribly old.
Yeah.
Most of the work that we did was just decoration and putting, the wood panels on the wall, but structurally everything was here, which kind of made our job a little bit easier.
For sure.
But it was more the aesthetics that we worked on. So the stained glass windows, the flooring, the tiling, more that kind of stuff.
I'm so dumb. I thought that was real stained glass. I didn't even notice it's the Fuente logo.
No, so there's so many windows in this building, it would have been impossible to duplicate stained glass everywhere,
Right.
especially for how tall the building is. So we had a local artist. She's local to Tampa Heights. Her name is Lulu, and a lot of her stuff is in the Heights area. But she came in right before we opened and painted all the windows.
I love it. It
Yeah.
looks so cool. And obviously it fits with the cathedral vibe. It's amazing. So we're upstairs here on the members only lounge.
Correct.
So you guys have a membership, right? And
Yeah.
kind of what was your thought on, I guess, initially the business portion of it, right? Obviously you can come, grab a drink, smoke a cigar, but where did that membership role come in? Was that the original thought?
Well, in the beginning, we were kind of going back and forth whether we wanted to make the entire facility members only, or if we wanted to portion it out where only the upstairs was members and downstairs was open to the public. Ultimately, that's what we went with, just because we have so many tourists that come to Tampa because we're Cigar City. So to close our doors to tourism and for people who travel here for cigars would just be silly on our end. But we always thought there was a need for a membership lounge in Tampa, just because people like their privacy, a place to host meetings. What better place to host a meeting than over a cigar and bourbon? So that's kind of what we wanted to facilitate. And we're very lucky now. Our membership has remained full since we've been open. But the coolest thing about our membership, I think, are the people who are involved with it. It is a true representation of Tampa. Like a lot of locally owned Tampa businesses, old Tampa families, cigar makers, so I think that's the coolest part about a membership program.
I was looking at y'all's private boxes in the back. You have lawyers and construction companies,
Yeah.
and it's like a mixed bag of everyone that loves
Every
cigars.
industry. And
Yeah.
that's also why I love cigars, because you meet someone from every single industry that you could possibly think of.
Yeah, I mean, well, so I was talking to Drew Newman. We did a podcast with him, and back in the day, cigars obviously were the main form how people ingested tobacco. Today, there's the
Right.
little vape sticks and cigarettes and all
Yeah.
that. But back then, cigars, people have to imagine this was the main, I mean, drugs the wrong word, but like main source people would get their tobacco use, right? So even still today, it kind of like fizzled out. There's so many different types of people that smoke cigars. So it's kind of cool you
Yeah.
guys have it all here under one roof.
And I think more so like Tampa in general. So my background is being from California. So the cigar culture in California versus Tampa is completely different. Here, it's not just a hobby or like a pastime that white collar people do. It is a part of Tampa culture. There's so many people my age whose grandparents worked at cigar factories. That's how a bunch of immigrants came here, and that's why you have a Spanish population, a Cuban
Right.
population, Italian population. So it's really, I feel like it's the backbone of a lot of Tampa.
Yeah, that was my great grandmother Rosa. She actually rolled cigars in Ybor City. So
See?
yeah,
Everyone's tied to cigars.
there's a ton of people with that heritage. So yeah, California. So you're from California. What brought you over here to Tampa? Have you always been in the cigar industry?
I've been working with cigars for the past 14 years, I think. I'm 32 now, so it's pretty much like half my lifetime, I feel like. So it's all I've ever known. I had a store in San Diego called Lord Puffer, and ultimately we always wanted to leave California just because for cigars, it wasn't conducive. You could wake up one day and the governor could say, by the way, there's a no tobacco smoking effective in 24 hours.
Oh.
And at that point, it's like, what do you do?
Is that something that came up during COVID, or has that always been the case in California?
No, that's always been the case. So California is a very anti-tobacco state. The taxation is very high. So for the longevity of what we do, which is sell cigars, there's no lifespan, I guess, in California. So the states that most people always go to are going to be either Florida, Texas, or Pennsylvania, because they're the lower tax states when it comes to cigars. And I remember telling my partner, Nathan, you know, the business and the money could be great, but if you don't enjoy where you live, doesn't mean anything. So to me, Tampa was the most comparable to San Diego. The people, you know, everyone loves outdoors here. Everyone is always on the water with their dogs. So lifestyle, I feel like Tampa would have been the best move.
Yeah, for sure.
That's how we pursue Tampa.
But how did you get into cigars? I mean, you must have been what, 14, 15 years old or younger?
No. So I started working at a cigar shop when I was 17.
Interesting.
And actually, no, I think I was 18 when I started working. I started going to a cigar shop at 17. And the reasoning, it's the dumbest reason. Like, everyone has great stories. Mine is the worst. I was living downtown in the gas lamp in San Diego. And I had just graduated from high school. I was working with the Padres full-time, going to school full-time at UCSD. But I wasn't 21. And I was living in the gas lamp district, which would be kind of like Bourbon Street, where all the restaurants and bars are and nightclubs. So I couldn't go anywhere because I was underage. And the cigar shop was the only place that never carded me, because it was also a coffee shop. So I had this like master plan. I'm going to hang out here and meet some people, and eventually I'll be able to go to other places because I wasn't of age. And I just never left. So.
Oh my gosh, wow.
So that's a true story. And I would hang out at the cigar shop every single day and do my homework from there. And I became a permanent fixture.
So you were in cigar shops, but were you actually smoking cigars?
No, I didn't want anything to do with cigars. I knew nothing about cigars. You know, I come from a very strict Chinese family where I was supposed to be a doctor or a lawyer, a dentist. So the tobacco route wasn't on the top of my priority list, but everything just fell in place.
So you're telling mom and dad, like, no, I'm only going there to do homework. I'm not.
Yeah. So my mom now, she's very supportive. She loves the cigar culture. She'll come in on the weekends.
That's awesome.
But it took a good 12, 13 years of convincing.
Oh, my Lord.
So.
Well, you landed in the Mecca, right? Tampa is the cigar capital, right?
Right.
So when you came here, did you see this building immediately for sale? I don't know the story of how this kind of the real estate transaction took place.
No. So I was in San Diego, and at that point we were kind of dabbling around where we wanted to go next, and we were set on Florida. And I was looking at different zip codes throughout Florida. So my mind was always set on Sarasota, West Palm Beach, or Fort Lauderdale, because I was familiar with those towns. I had never been to Tampa before.
How did you hear of Sarasota?
Just because it's a town that's, even if I haven't been there, it's well known in California. There's a lot of people that travel back and forth. So it's just a town that was always in the back of my mind, even though I didn't know much about it. I've just always heard people talking about it.
That's where I grew up. I was born in Tampa, but moved to Sarasota when I was 11, and then did middle school and high school and a little bit after college in Sarasota. But to me, growing up there, it was always just a small little beach town. So it's interesting. It's like on the radar of people in
we would always hear from it in Southern California, even though I didn't know anything about it. But I'm like, well, people from California go there, so let's look there too.
Check it out, yeah.
Didn't find anything in West Palm Beach. Didn't find anything in Fort Lauderdale. Nothing in Sarasota. And I think I used the wrong zip code one time too. And that's how I found this building. We weren't looking
so you're
for
like
Tampa.
On Zillow, or what are you doing?
LoopNet.
Oh, okay.
LoopNet. And I remember it so clearly. It was a Sunday. It was raining in San Diego, so there was nothing to do. And I was just sitting inside the shop looking, went on LoopNet, found it, and left a message on the realtor's voicemail, who is Steven Schliemann, who is now our membership coordinator. And the message was, I have a crazy idea. I'm from California, but I'd love to open a cigar shop. I know it's a church. Like, I hope it's not offensive or anything. And he gave me a call back on Monday, and he said, well, as a matter of fact, my favorite cigars are Arturo Fuente, and so is the owner of the building. So it was like a match made in heaven.
Was Steven So he was down with it. I would imagine he would be like, ooh, I don't know if the city would allow it. It's a church. Did you have use and zoning issues, stuff like that?
No, I mean, we're in Cigar City, so the city has always been very supportive of cigars and cigar ventures. And the experience that I've had with the city is they have been nothing but an absolute blessing.
Good.
You know, coming from California, the city has just been so helpful in helping us get on our feet. And that's really all you can ask for as a privately owned business, a
Yeah.
city that supports you with the tools that you need. And then ultimately it's up to you what you do with it. But the city has always been very supportive, and it's kind of like a breath of fresh air because you don't get that in California.
No, and I feel like even more lately, right? There's so many business owners that have left California in the last couple of years. We're in residential real estate, so
Okay.
we are at the tip of the spear in the sense of we get the calls, right, of people moving here.
Right.
And they all have that same story. We owned a
Yeah.
business over there and it was hard to expand and we're
Right.
getting taxed out the ass, and they have
Yeah.
all the same stories. So that's awesome to know the local government here wants people to come, and especially to take an old building like this and turn it into something amazing that people
Right.
can use, because really the thought is like, what the hell else would you
And it would
use?
be such a shame to demo this building. I mean, there's so
Right.
much history in it.
Well, that's what it would be, right? They would bulldoze it and then build like some apartment building. I mean, that's kind of that's like the most anyone could do
Right.
with this. So that's awesome. So you called Steven. He's like, for sure, let's do it. Um, man, I would imagine there's funding, there's these ideas you have. So you fly to Tampa and you come see this for the first time. What happens?
That was it. That was done. We're easy. Like,
Done deal
Yeah,
like that.
done deal. If we
So you
see
told
something,
Steven,
we
"We'll
want
take
it,
it."
we get it. Yeah. So
That's awesome.
that's all it was. It was a simple flight over here. And I mean, it didn't look cosmetically this pretty when we got it, but the bones were there.
What did you
know?
build out? Were these rooms here? I mean,
Yeah,
what
these rooms
construction
were
did you
here.
guys do?
So this was office space up here, and those like fictitious office cubicles, you know, with the plexiglass. So that's what that entire room where the members lounge is, and this room, these were all office units.
Got it.
And then downstairs in the humidor, it was also office space, and then where the bar is was a kitchen for the employees to have lunch. So everything was pretty much there. We just kind of elevated and fixed it up a little bit more.
Oh, nice. So you
Yeah.
guys got lucky in the sense of like you didn't take this completely run down.
No,
old-
thank God we did
Right.
it. Yeah. And then the plumbing was here. The restrooms were all here because it was a church at one point. So there was good amount of, you know, restroom space. So we just kind of made it pretty.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love it. And then outside, you guys have that beautiful area. And I noticed on the stones you have written, I think it's the story of kind of Cigar City.
Yeah, so around our koi pond on all the big top pavers is a chronological story of Arturo Fuente and how the company came to be. Starting in 1912, Arturo Fuente Sr., who started the company, all the way up to where we are today. So every few bricks is another, 5 years of what happened or important monumental things that occurred during their span. And that's what that is. And I really want to preserve, Fuente and Cigar City because that's what Tampa is. And there's so many people that travel from all over the world to come here because of their passion for cigars.
Yeah.
So this store, which started off as bar lounge membership, has really turned into a museum. And
yeah.
people like to come here and learn about the history of Tampa and cigars. So I'm proud to be able to do that now.
Yeah, you're a big part of it. I think one day when more business owners like yourself have these amazing ideas and things like this pop up all over the city, you're going to start a little bus tour around, right?
Yeah.
Ybor City, the factory, and then you come here and you have a cigar.
And I think that's the coolest thing about Tampa, as the years pass by, we're in 2023. People who are born and raised in Tampa and old Tampa families don't forget Tampa of what it is. They don't let the history get lost. They don't let the culture go away, and they really try hard to preserve it, which I think is absolutely beautiful. So
That's why I started the show, just to expose that history and culture.
Right.